Sally Pointer. Excuse the mess, it's raining outside at the moment. Today though, I'm working on something very straightforward. It's a belt pouch and it's very broadly inspired by an Anglo-Saxon style. So today's project is inspired by these Anglo-Saxon ring pouches. This drawing is from this excellent book, Dressed in Anglo-Saxon England by Gail Owen Crocker, and they're known particularly from about the 5th and 6th centuries, and the most famous ones that survive, this part of the ring is actually ivory. Now, I'm not trying for an accurate reconstruction with today's project. I'm taking inspiration from this because I want a pouch that I can use when I'm out hedge-bothering. So I need to find something that's going to do the job of this ring without me needing to go and hunt down an elephant anywhere. And because I'm not worried about authenticity with this, what I've actually chosen today is an embroidery hoop. Now these come in lots of different sizes, but I want something that I can get my hand into very, very easily. I could probably just use that inner part, but the original hoops are quite round. You know, they're turned loops, made from ivory, but probably also made from wood, possibly iron as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this inside its frame, tighten it down, and then I'm going to get rid of the top end of this metal bit to give me something a little bit more solid. So I'm going to give it a good squirt of Gorilla Glue all around the edges, all around here. I'm going to clamp it down, let it set while I have a cup of tea. So this is now glued. You can see the glue around the edges, clamped down tightly. I'm going to let that set for an hour. My other materials, while we're having a look at it, I'm going to use leather for the pouch. Now this is a piece of veg-tanned red deerskin from Barhead Leather. This particular one is very thin and it will be very supple when it's sewn together. There's quite a few different stitches I could use. I want something that's a little bit rustic looking, so I'm going to be using a very simple whip stitch. So I'm going to use a toning linen thread, a modern glover's needle, and I'll wax it with a bit of beeswax as I go. And the only other thing that I should need is I want it to be strong, so I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use a little bit of Copydex when I assemble it. If I was being more accurate, I would definitely leave that out, but you know, this isn't an exact project. While it sets, I've measured around the outside edge here using a piece of string, and I've used that to measure out my piece of leather. So that is a fraction over half of that circumference, and obviously there's two of them, and I've made a very slight taper to my pouch. It's pretty big. I want to be able to get a lot into this. I've also cut a strip which is going to be the top strap, and what I'm going to do is put a little bit of Copydex on this, fold the sides in so it's going to look a little bit like bias binding when it's folded up. Let that set, and that's going to give me a really nice strong strap to attach later on. This Copydex has pretty much given up the ghost, so whether I'm going to use it on the rest of the project I don't know, but it'll do for just turning that leather into a strong strap. I'm going to stick that under a heavy book for an hour and then we'll come back and sew it all up. So now let's sew it all together. I'm going to wax my thread. I always like to wax threads when I'm leather sewing. Let's see if I've chosen the right size needle. No, I haven't. I'll just go and get a different one. And I'm using an incredibly simple stitch to put this together. This is a whip stitch. As I mentioned, I want a slightly rustic finish to this particular project. There are loads of leather sewing stitches you could use. Many of them are beautiful and neat and really almost invisible in use, and absolutely you could use one of those. But this is just what I want for this particular project. So if you haven't done this stitch before, it's just both ends of your material, both edges of your material together, and you just poke the needle all the way through and pull it up nice and tight. So hopefully you can see that you get a nice rolled edge there, and on the inside it's nice and smooth, and that's what I particularly want in this case. I don't want the inside to snag on any of the objects I put into it. It's still going to be nice and strong. So I'm going to finish sewing that up and then we'll assemble it. Okay, so the sewing up is done. So I've got a whip stitch on both edges, and this will get nice and supple the more it's used. Everything's smooth on the inside, so that can go to one side. This is now set, so what I want to do is try and get rid of this. Now, I could try and undo the rivets, but to be honest, I think we can probably get away with just wiggling these flat. Now, either this will flex and I'll be able to snap it off, but I'm wondering if I can just actually just bend it flat, or flat enough. Yeah, that'll work. And I don't think it's going to matter if those overlap slightly, because I can put this bit at the back of the pouch where the strap will cover it. The important thing is not to make it lumpy. Do you know, I think that's going to be all right for my purposes. So that's glued really strongly, so that's going to work as a complete unit now. What I need to do next is attach this. And I think the way I'm going to do it is, if I can get my glue to work, because I think that Copydex has died, so I'm going to run a little bit of glue in and just glue this right over the ring all the way around, and then I'm going to stitch it into place. So that will fit like this. That will fold in just enough. I'm going to see if I can get a dab of glue just to stabilise that. It's not essential. If I was trying for a much more authentic version, I probably would just stitch it into place. But yeah, I think that's going to work. Dab of glue, and then we'll over-stitch it. So I've tacked that down. I used Gorilla Glue in the end, not very successfully, but it doesn't matter. It's only there just to hold everything in place while I whip stitch around the margins. So I'm using a doubled thread for this, and I'm just going to go right over the frame, right through both layers of leather, and that should make it tidy, but it should also make it really, really secure. We are very nearly there. So the ring is sewn in, it's nice and secure. All I need to do now is to sew in a strap at the back. I'll probably give it a little dose of leather food just to speed up the suppleness of it, and then we can try it out and see what we can fit into it. So we're pretty much all done. Now, I know I want this for pretty much modern use, but it amused me to see what I could fit into this if I was going to be vaguely Anglo-Saxon. So I've got a little knife in a sheath, I've got a bone comb, a pair of tweezers, I've got a spindle with a nice Roman melon bead on it, a couple of needles, a pair of shears, little tiny spoon, small personal drinking cup, and if I do the magic cut away and come back again, all of those are now in the pouch with plenty of room to spare. And that will hang on a belt like that, so that I can get at things very, very easily. What I actually want it for, of course, is for my foraging gear. I want something that's big enough for my phone case, my folding secateurs, plenty of room for a couple of mesh bags full of herbs or nuts or anything else that I've been out collecting, that will hang on my belt and be very easy to get in and out of as I'm out hedge-bothering. And here it is on a belt. So this one is pretty big, probably a little larger than real Anglo-Saxon pouches would have been, but absolutely perfect for my purposes. Just need a nice dry day and I can take it out hedge-bothering.